It was a sweet big girl. You a sweet big girl. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you guys are watching this video. How are you guys doing? So today, I forgot to film an intro to the video, well, because we split it into two videos. But I also want to keep it detailed. It seems like you guys want to see that stuff too, from the comments that I read in the previous video, which is awesome because I like to show that type of stuff. So I'm going to show a little bit more. You guys, again, tell me what you like and don't like. Instead of chopping through it so quickly, I feel like I'll lay a little bit of more information out there. I just like to keep people entertained. Myself, when I watch my own videos or go over them, you know, before I finalize it and give it the okay, I like keeping it where it's entertaining, like from place to place to place. You know, you got to change it, you know, every so often. So I'm still gonna try and do that so you guys aren't bored. And I'm rambling on now, but did you see the beautiful girl at the beginning of this video? She's the cute little kitten. She's growing up so fast, but I want to show you guys, I may have an addiction. Guys, I may have a electronic impact, ratchet, you name it, addiction. So as you can see, I have a couple impacts. I always tell people I have a couple impacts. Yeah, a couple of them, you know. So yeah, so we're gonna jump into this video. It's finishing up installing the Magnum. We're doing that, showing you guys, you know what I mean, the rest of it, and getting into getting the car where it is right now in this current state. Look at that, guys. Look at, whoa, whoa. She's back on the ground, which you guys haven't seen yet. So let's jump into it. Alrighty, guys, there you go. You can see bell housing's on, nice and tight. Next is gonna be starter's gonna go in, and then I'm thinking. This is a sensor that's got to be, or the solenoid wire that's got to be lengthened. We may just go ahead. I think this guy needed like about 3 to 6 inches. And then this guy, there's a AutoZone, or O'Reilly's has this connector, which is a speed sensor pigtail in stock. So what I could do is just chop it, like I said, put one connection in it and shorten it. So I'll probably lengthen this one while we're down here. And then I'll go ahead and buy a pigtail for this one, which will come with, I think, enough wire in order to be able to lengthen it, and we'll only have one connection, and it'll be a non-broken pigtail. So, but first, before we get this guy under there and all that, we're gonna go ahead and put most of the tranny fluid in it. Ooh, what's down there? And what I'm going to be putting in it, guys, is Mobile 1 ATF, 2 quarts. I think it takes 4. So we're going to put 2 quarts of ATF and 2 quarts of Synchro Mesh. We're going to give that a shout. Thanks to my buddy 2 Honkerinos. That's what he said to try, so we're going to give that a shot. Okay, so we got those 2.5 quarts in. I put the plug in slightly tighter than hand tight, so we're gonna be good with that. Now we just gotta get the transmission slid underneath the car and then get it on this tranny jack. That's gonna probably be the most difficult thing to do by myself, but we're gonna give it a shot nonetheless. I'm happy we got it on here. The one thing I don't like, guys, is how I feel like the front's tilted down. But I don't want to move too far back because there's a lot of weight right here. I think it's very deceiving. When you look at the transmission, you would think that, you know, most of the weight would be right here. In all actuality, most of the weight's actually right here in this section. So I feel like it's really heavy right here with the tail shaft and everything out here. It always wants to tilt back. I'd like to get this right here because that would obviously help me level it. And it's harder to control without the trans mount on it. This thing will definitely want to rock and flip and do silly stuff. So, and I also don't like to have these on too tight because they prevent you from being able to wiggle it and move it when you want to be able to do that to get it in. So we're going to try and scoot it back a little bit and see if it's happy back a little ways or not. It seemed like it was kind of sticking, so. I think that'll work for now, so we're gonna try that out. I may actually have to pull this shifter off. I hope not, for the fact that I know it's gonna be difficult, I feel like, to get back in. Maybe not, maybe I'm making a bigger pain out of it than it really will be. I just think it'd be kind of difficult to get it back in. But we'll give this a shot and see. Don't fall off the tranny jack, Mr. Tranny. One thing I almost forgot, guys, was to put the clutch fork on the transmission. So you can see there, I just went ahead and put it on, greased it up. That throw-up bearing doesn't have very many miles on it, so I'm going to go ahead and reuse it. And also, I will change it probably in the not too terribly long future, but it feels good, doesn't make any noise. So we're going to go ahead and run it. But now we're going to jack the motor up and get that part rolling. What's up, Black Kitty? I don't know, guys. We're probably gonna have to pull the shifter off, because if you look, there's not much room here between the shifter and we got like a couple fingers, and you can see we got a lot more than that to go up there. So alright, so here's what we did instead. We took this and we adjusted it, tilted it all the way up. So as you guys can see, the tranny's tilted a lot closer to the angle of that. So we may be able to get it in, so let's give it a shout. Give her a shout. I think we're at the point where we just got to get it on the dowels. So I think we also want to make sure this guy's got room, because if this guy's tight, it means we're physically pushing the diaphragm springs with compressing the transmission. So we're at that point now where it's all about them dowels, and it looks like I can go up, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. But as you saw, it was easier for me to pick the tranny up and wiggle it. So now that we're at the point where we're at the dowels, I lift it back up because I want the jack to be doing the straightening for me and keeping it level, not me picking it up and leveling it. Sometimes at this point too, you got to take bolts and physically run it in. Okay guys, what we're doing is we just put the bolts in and walk them down by hand. Now this should go really easy. If it doesn't, like really easy means like I can take this with one hand on my ratchet and basically do this to run them in. Now I just hit the point where it got tight because the case is up against the bell housing. But if you can't really run it in with one hand close to the ratchet head like that, you have another issue and you need to figure it out. Either you're not an input shaft on your pilot bearing, or something else is preventing this from actually going all the way up in where it needs to be. And also this fork right here is partially touching, and that's kind of a bummer because that means we may need to get an actual shorter we need to go on this pivot ball. Okay guys, so I want to show you, it's moving like a worm back here, but I want to show you what's going on. Our actual, if you can see up in there, there is a throw-up bearing touching the springs. That's what's happening. That's what's happening on this fork. It's hard to get lighting up there for you guys, but the throw-up bearing touching the springs, and when that happens, this fork right here gets tight. So it doesn't even have any play right now. And if you look at our gap right here, because I went ahead and loosened all the bolts on the transmission, we have a very fine, very fine gap right now. So that gap is being held on by this bolt right here. I backed it off and I loosened it
to see when it touched, and it's barely starting to put pressure on those springs.
So now, any clutch manufacturer is going to tell you they do not want any at all whatsoever pressure on their diaphragm springs, period. And they'll argue up and down that you'll destroy the clutch, it's gonna, you know, do this, do that. But if you're not a ding dong and you're not putting a lot of preload on it, like you see that gap? If I had a friggin', you know, feeler gauge, I would literally feeler gauge that gap, and I bet you that gap is probably 40 thousandths or something like that. So to me, when we tighten it down, that fork gets tight because it's got a little bit of preload on there. But when I set all my cars up, I set them up with preload on that period, because I'll put the firewall adjuster all the way to where it's literally pulling on that. I have to physically push the clutch fingers, the clutch fork really hard in. I have to move it about a ½ inch before my actual cable will loosen up. And that's kind of that beginning part, like when you push your pedal, that first little bit is doing that. You're really preloading that. And even when you have it like loose, you have all this swing, and then you start preloading it, and then it starts to move. Depending on how this feels, I'm gonna have to fix that. I don't like that. I want to be able to have my clutch fork be loose and wobble, and I take care of that slack with my firewall adjuster, because then I know exactly how much preload I'm putting on it, because I can feel it with the firewall adjuster. So what we're gonna end up doing is putting this together as is right now. It's totally fine for break-in. I'm not making hits, I'm not making power runs. It's gonna have enough, if not, it's gonna have plenty of clamping force, because what they're scared of with preload on that is you're pushing on the springs and you're gonna have slippage of your clutches, because all the pressure plate spring pressure isn't clamping down on the clutches. But we're not going to bang gears on this, because we're going to be breaking in the clutch. So, and I really want to drive the car. It's been a long time. I don't mind pulling the tranny. It's not very difficult. Plus, I need to order another part for it. So, we're going to go ahead and get this together like this for now. We're going to drive it, see how it feels. Heck, if it feels great and I like it, I may even leave it alone, and I may not even screw with it and go order the adjustable fire or the adjustable pivot ball. We may just leave it as is. But it really depends on what the pedal feels like. So, and I know what I like my pedals to feel like, and if it feels like it did prior to this, I'm gonna be a-okay with it, because this car doesn't make a ton of power anyway. So, but I just want to let you guys know, it's not the right thing to do. You shouldn't do what I'm doing unless you know what the effects are, which are, you know, basically what I told you right now is your clutch could slip if you're putting too much pressure on it. Alright, what up you guys? So, it's technically the next day. We went ahead and got some things. You guys saw where we ended last night. We ended with the transmission up in there, and I showed you guys where, you know, our throttle bearing was putting a little bit of pressure on those fingers. So yeah, that's where we're at. But I went ahead and I bought some other things too. Let me show you guys what I got. So of course, we had to go get another one of these. So I bought one because I needed it. I got, always good, some straight edge razors. And we got our new, let me show you guys, connector, pigtail for the transmission. And see, I'm hoping this is gonna be long enough. This isn't very long. I was hoping it'd be a little bit longer than this, but it may be just enough to get us from almost around. We may have to do a little bit more wire than this, but whatever. If I have to do wire, you know, 2 pieces, I can't say I didn't try. And my other one, the one side of the connector was broken, so this definitely helps with that. And we also got our 2 quarts we needed of synchro mesh. So we're gonna be running this, obviously, to fill up the tranny the rest of the way. I don't have a pump with me, so what I may do is get a piece of hose and stick this down it and run the hose down into the transmission and just hold it up above, and that way gravity feed into the side of the tranny until it starts pouring out, and we should be good. There she is, guys, clipped on, nice and easy. Now people think you have to actually pull these tabs off on these connectors to get them to undo themselves, and if you just pull on the connector, you can see it'll come out. And that's because on these they have a, think of like a mountain. As it comes up the mountain, it's pushing on that connector, which takes a lot of load to get it up and over. So it's, you know, if you do a quick yank, it would just basically yank this guy off and out of here, and he would just be like, boop.
So makes it easy. I don't know that that's going to be the length that we need. It is going to be very close because you can see the factory one used to be right here, and now we're stretching it across here. It is going to be tight, 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 tight. Okay guys, I want to show you what I'm doing here for the connector. So I went ahead and chopped it, and I was a ding ding, and I chopped it really close. I don't know why, I just brain farted it. I would have given this probably another 2-3 inches of length from the connector, so you can redo it if you have to. So because I did that, I'm obviously soldering. You can see I soldered that one, so I'm showing you how I'm going to solder this other one and what it should look like when you're all said and done with it. And that's it. That's what your solder should look like. See how it's nice and smoothed over on the wires? Those look good. So now you can see this one, same thing, smoothed over nicely. It looks good and it is nice and smooth. That's what you want. That means the solder flowed into the wires, and this is a good solid connection. It's not going to break. This is very strong. So now I already put it on and I chopped this one to length, so I'm just going to go ahead and kind of straighten them both out, and I'm going to get this one and I'm going to chop it at the same length. For those of you that don't have shrink wrap, so I'm going to basically do this like if I didn't have shrink wrap to show you guys how to do it. I always keep a roll of electrical tape, and I keep it on the small side, and I put it away and I stop using it because I want to be able to have this for tight areas and doing tight things. And so what I'll do is grab my electrical tape like that, get the edge started, and I actually like to start down just a little bit of the wire. So, and I'll spread this. This is before you know what I mean, complete these ends, because we're going to have to do the same. I take it and I wrap it around. And so after that, now that I've done that and this one's wrapped, I'm going to go ahead and put them together, and I'm going to wrap both of them simultaneously. And the reason that I like to do this is it just A, holds the wires together nice and tight, but B, if you wrap it right on the other one, you're not going to have any chance of your wires touching or doing anything. They're also, if they get yanked here, they're going to get yanked both of them at the same time. You're not going to have one that's getting yanked and the other one that's not. It literally adds a lot of strength to this. It's doubling the strength of being able to pull the connectors out. So if you pull them out, you're going to break something, but that's a really good way that I've learned over the years to do it. Alright guys, so you can see here we got our speedo sensor with the new pigtail coming over here to 2 butt connectors spliced into the factory harness. And then we have this guy up here where we did our little, that's our electrical tape. And then I went ahead and used 2 more butt connectors right there to get it. And these are the heat shrink kind of butt connectors, so they really, really, really bite down when you heat them. And if you can see on these 2 right here, there's like a little bit of gooey stuff coming out of it. That's what's cool about these heat shrink connectors. They do that and they spit that stuff out, and basically what it does is seals that so no water can get in. Pigtail like this from the factory, from Ford, from GM, doesn't matter, they send them with butt connectors. So, and they use butt connectors on a lot of their stuff, and I've used them. If used properly, these are totally okay. Now soldering is always better, and in some scenarios at Ford, at GM, they have you solder them in some instances, but for doing stuff like this, it is very, very acceptable to do this. That's kind of weird. So this part right here that goes to the mount was just a little tight on this. So this, when I tightened it down, it pushed it up and opened it up a little bit, which is totally okay. But that's what was making it a little weird and a little awkward. So I'm gonna come back and finish up this wiring too later, guys. But for now, I really just want to drive the car and obviously test it too and make sure it works before we finalize it. Okay guys, so it definitely fought me here trying to get it in. I want to show you guys where it was fighting me and
how tight it is up in here. What are you doing over here? Get out of my way. Get out of my way. You guys can see it. Look at how tight the front bolts, front shifter bolt right there is difficult to see. He is actually, it looks like maybe touching the trans tunnel a little bit. So I'm hoping this will settle a little bit maybe. I don't know. Probably not. I may have to go up there and ding it. We'll see if it makes a bunch of noise or something rattles around up there. It's definitely tight. You guys can see she's in. She's no longer being held up by anything. She's on her own. So we got to connect that cable, get the drive shaft in, put the rest of the fluid in, put the exhaust back on, and then we got to change the front pulley, get that guy to break loose, the alternator pulley, put the blower back on, and we will be in business. It's a lot of work to do. Alright guys, so I just went to jamming. I literally did just about everything underneath. I just got to put that crossbar in and that O2 sensor in, but all the O2 sensors are hooked up. The shift 4 cable linkage is hooked up. Drive shaft is in, as you guys can see. Exhaust is obviously back on, as you can see there. So drive shaft's in, exhaust is on, cable's on. Cable's a little tight. Like I said, I got to change that pivot ball. I'm not happy with it. It's plenty good for now. We got a little pressure on the springs. We're not going to beat the crap out of the car. We're just going to do it to break in. And I'm going to order the new adjustable one, and then we're going to also order a new throw-up bearing along with it, so it's gonna have a brand new throw-up bearing and all that. Also, this thing, I'm hoping everything works. Speed sensor, that type of stuff, that's all done and hooked up. We'll finish and complete neatening or organizing and cleaning up all that wiring as soon as we do the other, because the tranny's gonna have to come back out to do all that. I don't have the part, but I wanna drive it so bad. It's been so long since I've driven it. My hands are filthy. We still gotta stick the blower on, and we got to change the lower, break the lower and all that. So I'm thinking now that we have the tranny in and all that drive shaft in, what I'm going to do is actually, we're going to stick it in gear, like 6th gear, e-brake jammed all the way up. We're going to get on this thing, put a little pressure on it like we did last time with the jack, but now we're going to take a pry bar and stick it on it and hammer it while we have tension on it, and hopefully that'll break it free and we'll be able to get it to come loose. So we'll see. Let's try that out. Alrighty guys, there it is. That's the factory handle on the MGW. I used these plastic spacers and bolted it up to it, so it's solid mounted. 1st gear, 2nd gear. That's a pretty quick throw. 3rd, 4th. Blah, 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 blah. Biggity, 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 blah, 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 blah. But in all seriousness, guys, I really do like it. That is 1st, 2nd. This thing is way taller than my MGW, and I feel like that is about the same. It might have been 1st to 2nd, like right there was 2nd, and so I have like a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch more of into 2nd, but I don't know where their stops are set. I had my stop set really tight, and it feels like that's in the gear, and that's kind of like gear play, if you know what I mean. And I get it, I get that they want that because they want to have enough end on the back end. But what I did is I put it into gear, and then so you see that's in gear, the in gear wiggle. I would just went up like that and did a hint, almost till it touched it right there, so it had just a little bit of play. That way I made sure I was all the way in the gear. But yeah, I really like it, man. I'm excited to drive it. It feels good, so. Alrighty guys, that's it for this video. I know this is another long video. We got a lot of work. It's been a lot of work, and yeah, things are just one thing after another. But we just have to put the blower on, some other stuff. That stuff's gonna go quick. I have some other news with the car, things that have happened. So yeah, it's pretty cool. You know, we always have problems, and I wanna show you guys something that I did while doing this tranny install and all that, and a hose that had a problem. That's all you guys are gonna get for now. If you like this video, give it a big fat thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, don't forget, hit that subscribe button, smash it, punch it, whatever you like to do. Also, don't forget to hit that notification bell. That way you get a notification when my next video comes out. I'll show you guys a little sneak peek of what's in the garage. You see that? Ooh, the boxes are back home, so we're planning on doing some stuff, guys. I appreciate it as always, but now it's time for you guys to get the heck out of here.